You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome back, listeners, to a new episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host this week, Christos, and with me is Kristin. Kristin, my lovely, how are you?
I have zero complaints this morning, which is hard to sometimes come by in life. So I'm feeling very fortunate about that. But really, what I'm most excited about is that it's just you and I this morning.
Haven't they learned their lesson to leave you and me alone with the podcast? I mean, I feel like it's like the parents leave and we just go off on a tangent and do our thing.
Very much so. Very much, especially if there are questionable themes occurring in said episode. We're not afraid to speak our minds. So
we're definitely not afraid to call out the questionable things that have happened in Star Trek. But, you know, I dare I say, I feel like this one is not necessarily going to be problematic. It's not a problematic episode. So anyways. So we'll jump to that in a little bit. But maybe we should jump into our some great joy and gratitude.
Ooh.
Great joy and gratitude.
Well, Kristin, what has got you feeling good and having some great joy and gratitude, whether it be for Trek or anything else in your life?
You know, honestly, I think one of the biggest great joys and gratitude I'm having right now is that my new love, Ben, our new cat, is starting to really settle in, and the other cats are starting to really accept him as well. So there's lots of fun romping around the house and little chases and games, and it's adorable, and I love seeing him at peace. He likes to sit by the Christmas tree. Yes, we already have our Christmas tree up, and he just is a real just joy in our family. So we're very, very excited. And then I've also been doing my Christmas movies rewatch, which I love. I have my sets that I go through, and I watch them way too many times within 2 months. And just as I did on the view screen where I had Spooky Trek, and I had where we see Star Trek characters show up in horror movies, I'm seeing all these Star Trek characters showing up in Christmas movies. And it's really funny to see them taking such a unique role from what they did. And my favorite has to be the Santa Claus 2, where Michael Dorn shows up as the Sandman. And he's just wearing like PJs and a nightcap, and he's always falling asleep during the meetings with Santa Claus. And you get to see how very attractive Michael Dorn was. Still is, but back in the 90s specifically.
You mean these actors did something other than Star Trek?
Shocking, I know.
I know, right? Oh, I was going to say, it's good to hear everything is good in your collective. You know,
yes.
The house and the children.
There's no need to put them in their alcoves for times out. Yeah. And how about you, my love? What is your great joy and gratitude this week?
Well, I actually had something jotted down here, but I think I'm going to throw it out. Those of you who are very close to me know I had surgery about 6 or 7 days ago. And I kind of do a little shout out to all the Beverly Crushers of the world, because my doctor was literally Beverly Crusher. Her name is Dr. Amy Day. And she was so good to me before and during and after the surgery. And I swear her bedside manner is exactly Beverly Crusher. And it couldn't have been more perfect, because it really put me at ease. And honestly, I think she did a really good job, because my recovery has been pretty as expected, maybe better than expected. I'm definitely doing better than I thought I would 6 or 7 days later. So shout out to all of the doctors out there, especially the ones who take the time to really, talk to their patients and help them understand what they're going through and help them put them at ease as much as they can. So thank you, Dr. Day.
I love that.
All right. So, Kristen, you kind of teased our topic a little bit. Why don't you introduce it?
Absolutely. So we are kicking off our first episode of a new series, Murder, She Wrote, with TNG's Suspicions, which is season 6, episode 22, where Dr. Crusher violates Starfleet regulations and medical ethics when she investigates the death of the Ferengi scientist, Dr. Rega.
Don't you just love when they take a whole, we'll just say 45-minute episode and put it in like 12 words?
Hey, what was it Einstein that said true brilliance is being able to get your point across in the fewest number of words and in the simplest statement? So,
I mean, it does the job there. I mean, it's not wrong. Sometimes I read these descriptions and I'm like, there's a little bit more to that, but okay. But I searched a couple of times to find different descriptions and they all kind of said the same thing. So I was like, there wasn't a longer one that I could find that was a little bit more in depth, but not too long. So anyway.
And correct me if I'm wrong, there's no real strong beeline story in this episode. It really is just this situation.
Well, I point out in our later in trivia and continuity, but I'll just throw it out here. Gates McFadden worked overtime, whatever week this was that they filmed, because Beverly appears in every scene. Yeah. Even one scene doesn't start off with her, but she comes into the scene. Yeah. So it's like Gates McFadden had, she should have been like number 1 on the call sheet every day because she had the most work that week by far.
By far.
I can even think of any other episode where Beverly is in every scene. So it's definitely a Beverly Crusher episode. And I mean, arguably like 60 or 70% of the episode is her telling a story anyway, right?
Yes.
So you're right. Because of that, there is no B plot. It's all Beverly's point of view and Beverly's drama. So and that makes it perfect.
It sure does.
So let's kind of lead us right into topic number 1, which is like, hey, what's the tea, Bev? Yes, we're going to hijack a little bit of that other podcast because we're going to be talking about, at least in topic number 1, all things Beverly Crusher. So we're just going to call it Bev Crusher Week here at All Good Things.
No problems from me. I love a good Bev Crusher appreciation.
Like I said, see what happens when they leave us in charge. We're just going to
right.
We're just going to talk about Beverly for an hour. So I love this episode because it kind of introduces what we always knew about Dr. Crusher. It's not just Beverly the doctor or Beverly the scientist, Beverly the commander, Beverly the shuttle pilot, Beverly the first human to enter a star's corona. I mean, it's like, it really shows off how well-rounded an individual this character is.
And how talented she is. I mean, you think about the amount of training and schooling that it takes to become a doctor. And then she learns how to fly a shuttlecraft. That can't be easy, right? Not everyone can just show up and know exactly what they're doing. There's a lot to maneuvering through space.
And a star.
Yeah, and then taking all of the risk and having the courage to then go into the star as well. I mean, there was a lot that she did that really showed her as a formidable human being and a very well-educated woman. And so for a lot of people watching this back when it first aired, it may or may not have been a very influential episode for some people going, wow, you can do more than one thing in life. And I like that.
I remember I recorded this episode live off of television the first time it aired because we got used to get the next week on Star Trek: The Next Generation. So you knew it was going to be a Beverly episode. Yeah. So I recorded that baby. And it's just one of those really, really fun episodes. It did take them a couple of tries at the script, from what I understand, to get this right. But I think they finally got it there.
I don't think there's any complaints by people who love Beverly that the script does her justice.
Yeah. I feel like this starts to like turn the tide on the Beverly Crusher character. I think she really did season 4 had some good for Beverly, season 5 as well, but she gets to do some things in season 6 and 7, which I think it doesn't quite. It made a long way forward to progress the character as just being this background doctor, Wesley's mom, and sometimes Jean-Luc's love interest.
Yeah.
I think another cool highlight of this episode is we see a lot of Nurse Ogawa.
She's so badass in this episode when she opens the what is it called? I don't remember. I was going to say crypt, but it's not a crypt.
The morgue?
The morgue. Thank you. When she opens the morgue for to bring out Dr. Rhea's body, and she the line, "Well, you're not my boss anymore," but saying it in such a loving and endearing way. I thought that was just that was so funny.
Yeah, you can't tell me not to help you. I'm your friend and I'm going to help you.
Yeah, exactly.
So Nurse Ogawa made her she made her debut in season 4, Futures Imperfect, which is an alternate timeline episode that we see her in, right? She's in this, what do you call it? A Romulan holodeck, basically, where we first see Nurse Ogawa. But she's actually a real person. She would go on to appear in 16 episodes and 2 movies, Generations and First Contact. So I will say this because it comes up a lot with our TNG guest stars and even DS9 guest stars. Don't you feel like she was in a lot more than 16 episodes?
It feels like she was there floating around in almost every one. She really had a way of having an effect on the screen that you kind of just felt like she was always there. Very much sometimes how I feel Andrew J. Robinson was in Deep Space Nine, where he was in so few episodes, but you don't notice how few episodes he's in until you do a count, because you just think he's always there.
I mean, you couldn't go back and make Deep Space Nine the movie right now and not have Garrick be a prominent character in that movie, because he's so important to DS9, right? Same thing. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say Alyssa's that important to TNG, but she's definitely who you think of with Beverly. They kind of come together, right?
Absolutely. They were this tag team that was super good. And I mean, she helped essentially save the Enterprise in oh my gosh, what's the de-evolving in Evolutions?
Yes.
It not only did she save Dr. Crusher when she got shot with acid by Worf, but it was actually like her fetus's stem cells that were able to de-evolve everybody. So she's a very important character in the series.
Yeah, and it's also kind of funny too, like that's a good point out in that episode too, like how once Dr. Crusher sidelined because Gates McFadden directed that episode, so it's the perfect way to get her freed up. Like Nurse Ogawa kind of fills in for Beverly at the command at the conference room. Not one of the other doctors,
Yeah,
but it's Ogawa because we know Ogawa and we know who to cast and we know who to have do that.
Exactly, and I think that's also a good shout out to the fact that nurses know their stuff in life, and sometimes they do work tirelessly to support patients, and they don't always get the same credit that doctors do. So let's do a quick little shout out to all the nurses out there. Y'all holding the health system together, and you are appreciated and seen.
Yeah. So we also get another, like, moving on to more of Beverly's staff. We kind of get another shout out to Dr. Solar in this episode, who is only ever seen once in TNG. It's a season 2 episode, which Beverly's not even in season 2.
Yeah.
So we've never even seen Beverly and Dr. Solar have a scene together. What's the actress's name that played Kalar?
Hold on.
Anyways, that's Dr. Solar. One of her many roles. It's like right on the tip of my tongue.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay. Susie
Claxon. Yeah.
And I will always be bitter that Kalar was killed off so early in Trek.
Yeah.
I know everyone loves Worf and Jadzia, but I thought that Kalar called Worf on his crap more. And altogether, Susie Plaxton was she was she always played strong female roles, and I love her. So, yeah.
So shout out to Dr. Solar and Susie Plaxton.
Yes.
She gets a little mention in this episode by, Dr. Crusher and Guinan. It's another really cool point about this episode is like the Guinan and Beverly hour.
Yep.
You get to see them. Like, I don't think there's any other episode where Guinan and Beverly have so much interaction.
No, and it's so funny that every time one of the female bridge crew kind of finds themselves in trouble, Guinan is always there to guide them through, because this also happened to Troy in The Loss, right? Where she loses all of her power and she doesn't think that she can continue to be a counselor without her Beta Z powers. And so she is about to quit, and Guinan's like, well, then I'll do it, and blah, blah, blah. And it kind of shakes them out of this feeling sorry for myself and brings them back to there's still proactive actions you can take in this situation. And I you got to appreciate Guinan for, being the ultimate girlfriend in these situations. Being like, I'm not going to let you just walk away from this.
Yeah.
It's not time to call it quits.
The 10 forward set that they used in Picard seasons 2 and 3, and actually have Whoopi Goldberg in season 2. There's a picture of Guinan and Beverly on the wall in Guinan's bar. And when they brought that whole set to San Diego for Comic-Con, and we got to go in there and have drinks, and I was like, there's this picture of Beverly and Guinan on the wall. And I was like, I think it even would literally set up things that we would see later. So they kind of really segues into the next section here we're going to have, which is Beverly, the intergalactic rule breaker.
Mm-hmm. Because it's happened a few times.
Yeah. So in this episode, Beverly performs an illegal autopsy. She steals the shuttle, but the Prime Directive gets in Beverly's way on more than one occasion. Beverly, the rebel, comes to mind. Does this set up the Beverly that we would come to know in Star Trek Picard? Was it literally always right there in front of us? I mean, if you think about it, like aside from Guinan, I can't think of anybody else who has questioned Picard or his orders as much as Beverly.
And I think that's important, because those in power, especially any sort of command or sometimes even political power, they're not medical professionals. So when it comes to any sort of rules or direction that directly affects the physical or mental health and wellness of the crew, you need to have somebody there to speak to your directions as it could affect people's wellness. And I think she does that. She does a really, really, really good job at that, where she's like, look, this isn't your forte. This isn't where you have your strengths. This is where I have my strengths. And that's why my job is to question and to show you where your directions are maybe falling a little short.
Yeah, totally. And I think beyond medical or Hippocratic oath or anything like that, I mean, if you take an episode like The Perfect Mate, you just back it into that breakfast scene of Beverly and Jean-Luc having breakfast discussing, I can't remember the character's name, but anyways, the girl Beverly was basically advocating for her, saying, hey, this is slavery. This is human trafficking.
It is.
And it is. And she's passionate, and like, in a way, she kind of tells Jean-Luc off at breakfast, and then kind of like Mike drops it and walks out. And like, I love that. Like, first off, that Jean-Luc and Beverly have that kind of a relationship that, it's like they can name check their titles at the door and have a discussion. I think that's really healthy for any leader, to have somebody who will not be afraid to challenge them and challenge their decisions. So, I mean, kudos to Picard for, having that relationship, with somebody on his team. That's a little bit more than.
Yeah. And I think that she also really does an amazing job in Symbiosis. And that is one of the most aggravating episodes. Those two people are so full
Awful.
of themselves and self-righteous. They just need a giant punch in the face. And when Dr. Crusher comes to the conclusion that there is no plague, this is an addiction issue, and we need to cut off the supply, I think her push to kind of how are we going to balance the fact that we are under the Prime Directive, but we know this atrocity is happening, and Picard's ultimate solution is so creative at the end. But if it wasn't for Dr. Crusher kind of challenging him to say, we need to find a solution to this, those poor people would have been enslaved for forever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good Beverly moment in that episode. Beverly has a good presence in that episode altogether. But, you know, when Beverly and Jean-Luc are in the turbo lift, he does kind of get into a little bit of mansplaining to Beverly. And it's, you know, it's season 1 TNG, so go figure. But, you know, there's a little bit, Beverly, you know, she's going to get this lecture from Daddy kind of thing. And it's like, stop.
Ooh, Daddy.
Oh.
Don't mind.
Oh. All right. So if you take that episode Symbiosis and look at, I mean, Beverly was restricted by the Prime Directive. So cut to the 20 years between, you know, Nemesis and Picard, where she kind of goes rogue and she gets a ship and she just leaves the Federation and leaves Starfleet. And she starts getting things done more pragmatically, not letting Starfleet's rules get in her way. And I think every, you know, episodes like Symbiosis and Suspicions really set us up for who she was presented at in Picard season 3. And I think there were fans that were shocked that Beverly was so different, but really, I don't think she was that much different. It was always there.
I think so. And, you know, knowing that we had a Beverly-centric episode coming up, I, of course, ran to Reddit to do some reading and to look at what other Star Trek fans had to say about Beverly. And with Reddit Daystrom Institute. So that's the subreddit, for all of you who don't know, that is for serious Star Trek discussions about canon, about technology, all of that type of stuff. It's very, very intelligent subreddit. And shout out to user Cupcake Trap on his feedback. So the question was, should Dr. Crusher ever be allowed to captain a starship? And the original poster was really calling into question her not like her moral code and the stuff that she'd done throughout the series. That is like, why is she even being allowed to hold command even during the TNG when she like has her night watch and all that? And this one reply was really good. She says, I feel like Crusher routinely shows initiative, a sense of the bigger picture, and a willingness to make hard ethical decisions. She's also an excellent scientist, which should be worth at least as much as being an excellent military commander in Starfleet that's nominally about exploration rather than conquest. And then I love this one. I don't remember her being especially prone to advocate breaching the Prime Directive, but if she is, I suppose one explanation would be that unlike others, she was under a rather intense professional obligation that overlapped with her Starfleet obligation. So you brought it up earlier. The Hippocratic Oath is that you do no harm. And sometimes trying to do no harm did clash with the Prime Directive in some of these episodes. And so for her, she's under an obligation that not a lot of other crew members on TNG were under. So she's being pulled in two sometimes completely opposite directions. And I really think that she balanced that. She balanced that well. And they end up just saying that I think she's awesome. So, and she is. So I also like the fact that she had to, because of this situation she was in, she had to make some of the most challenging ethical decisions than any other crew member.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And hey, Cupcake, good job calling that all out. Like, totally. Like, but Beverly, aside from her medical training and her standard Starfleet training, she did the bridge officer's test. She did all that extra work. It wasn't
Yep.
like she was just, it wasn't they're right. You wouldn't naturally just put the CMO in command of the Enterprise, but she took the qualifications to be allowed to do that or be put in that position. She is the only person that starts off in TNG other than Riker with the rank of full commander. I mean,
Yep.
she's accomplished these things for herself. She's very well accomplished, and she's done the training. She's done the simulations. You know, she had to take the Kobayashi Maru just like everybody else. She's done it, and she's earned that right. And I think, you know, the next Beverly centric episode that follows this one is a direct tie-in to this episode, which is Descent Part 2, where she literally takes the metaphasic shield technology that she's learned about and experimented with and uses it to save the Enterprise.
Yep.
And talk about this like calm, cool, and in control character as captain. You know, they did not show, it was not Deanna in the episode Disaster kind of fumbling and not knowing what to do. In Descent Part 2, Beverly is decisive and on top of things and sciencing her way through it.
And I absolutely love Ensign Tate in Descent and how she came in just knowing, and she handed it to, was it Lieutenant Barnaby, I think was who that was, or Salazar? No,
Barnaby, you're right.
I think it was
right.
Barnaby. And she just pounds him with like, it's my job, essentially. Like, get out of my, like, again, the mansplaining, but now the mansplaining is in season 7 and they own him on it. And I appreciated that. So
a little tie right to this episode again. So Barnaby is played by James Horan, who actually plays Joe Brill, the guy who dies, the guy Beverly phasers away in this episode. It's the same actor.
I love those connections.
The Takarian scientist. All right. So let's talk about this episode a little bit, since we've been just like gushing on Beverly and kind of flying adjacent to the episode here and there. But this is definitely a murder mystery, which is our topic of today. And it's more about who did it, who done it. There's actually, there's technically 2 deaths in this one, but one's staged. But so let's kind of like go down. Like, one of my favorite movies is the movie Clue with Madeline Kahn.
Flames on the side of my face.
Heaving, burning.
Also, shout out to Tim Curry, one of the goats.
Yep.
One of the
Leslie Ann
goats.
Warren. Warren's in. Martin Mull.
Christopher Lloyd. So it's even got a Star Trek tie in Clue.
Eileen Brennan. Jane Wheadland from
Martin
The Go-Go's
Mull.
is the singing telegram, who's also in Star Trek 4.
Clue is essentially a Star Trek movie, is what you're saying. It's a holodeck.
It's a holodeck. Yeah, it's a holodeck program.
We just created new canon. Thank you.
All right. You heard it here first. So it kind of is that whole, like, they have to, because to do a whodunit or a murder mystery, you need to introduce a bunch of characters, right? And this episode totally does it. They set up this Beverly's hosting. So, hey, Beverly the diplomat is hosting this science-y thing, which, by the way, this would be a very Geordi thing. Geordi is totally absent from this episode, and Beverly is doing something that would probably be more of a Geordi thing or a Data thing. By hosting this scientific thing. And he's not even really around much for the actual sciencey part of it, which I kind of love because, it's about time we just gave some screen time to our doctor, right? But you have the Ferengi scientist, Dr. Rega, right? So a Ferengi scientist, which is like a joke in itself, right?
We'll talk about that later. I want to touch on that one later. And then, of course, we have Dr. Joe Brill, the Takarian scientist, who is almost too calm for, like, he had a lot of Vulcan mannerisms and aura about himself, where he's
kind of sus from the beginning, right?
He's kind of skeezy.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? What are you hiding? What are you hiding?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We have the couple, Dr. Christopher and Dr. Tapan. What is it with Vulcans being married to humans? I mean, that is a trope in Star Trek.
It is, but maybe it goes back to First Contact and the fact that maybe humans have a weird, excuse my language, hard on for Vulcans, where, you know, they're the ones who helped rescue them from the crap we brought upon ourselves. And so there's just this attraction to Vulcans. They do all tend to be quite attractive humanoids.
Okay.
Like, I mean, let's look at Spock. I mean, whether we're talking about Zachary Quinto all the way through to Leonard Nimoy, not a bad looking.
Heck.
Too early to talk about that.
Oh my.
Oh my. But even this, like, you know, it's I wonder if there's just such a strong connection between Vulcans and humans that there just tends to be all of this marriage. I don't know.
And then our last character,
Kirak, the Klingon scientist. I love her.
Kind of my favorite. She's kind of my favorite of all these people. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So the first time you watched this episode, who did you think had done it?
Oh, I thought the Vulcan woman did it.
Because
I'm like, because that's almost where you would least expect it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's very un-Vulcan to murder somebody.
Yeah.
But
Kirak, you know, like, Klingon would do it in a heartbeat, right?
That's just what they do.
But honor. I mean,
but honor.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not honorable to kill someone, an opponent weaker than you.
True.
Right?
So Beverly kind of stands up to Kirak. I kind of like that.
That scene is so badass.
Yeah. I like that Beverly gets back in her face even after getting knocked down, and you know, so. But I like Kirak. I do. I mean, I'm glad. I kind of wish we had seen more of her.
I know. Yep. Yep. And I think probably by Beverly standing up for the way she did, in some way, I bet Kirak developed respect for Beverly as a human, that she did not back down, right? She met her face to face, and that's something Klingons find honorable. So
yes. So
yes.
So we have our little, you know, cast of people, suspects. Let's call them suspects, right? You know, and this is like perfect. Like I said, like it's almost like introducing all the characters at Clue for dinner. It's like, here you go.
Yep. So Dr. Rega would have been Mr. Body, essentially. No, maybe not. Hold on. No, I guess technically Joe Brill would be more like Mr. Body, right? Because it's the fake death.
It could be.
Could be.
Yeah, you're right. The fake death. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But so we get this like really cool, like, okay, so, you know, Jabril, we think died, but he didn't die. He's in the morgue. Rega is then killed, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's not suicide. He's killed.
He is. Yeah.
It's made to look like suicide, but it wasn't.
And I think that's the way a lot of people, like assassins, try and take out their enemies, is to make it appear suicide, to remove doubt. So, I mean, we see this all the time when an opponent to Putin suddenly falls out a window, like, oh, it's an accident, or oh, they killed themselves. Oh, it's so sad and tragic. I'm like, are you believing this?
Yeah.
No.
It's randomly like run over by a garbage truck, you know, stuff like that.
So yeah, I thought that the whole lead up for this was super interesting. And then Beverly donning her, you know, Sherlock Holmes hat and just going in and starting doing the interviews. My question too is, where was security in all of this? Was there not security?
Yeah. I mean, there's two ways of looking at this. It's being told from Beverly's point of view. So you could say Worf was conducting something on his own on the side.
Yeah.
And you see like Jean-Luc, you know, when like, okay, so when it comes up that, you know, Rega's dead and Beverly wants to do the autopsy, but then suddenly she's told she can't, and she's like, but I need to. I mean, in a way, Picard's supportive to say, well, if you think someone's been murdered, you're going to have to find different evidence. But where's the, hey, I'm going to have Worf come and work with you? Like, Picard doesn't seem to be all that concerned that Beverly, this person that he trusts in depthly, her instincts are telling her somebody was murdered. And Picard normally should like want to get to the bottom of it, but now he's just like, yeah, Beverly, if you figure it out, good for you. Otherwise, I'm just going to close the book on this.
Yeah.
Kind of seems like his attitude.
He took it at face value, and we all know that if you just take things as they seem, you're missing out on a whole other storyline, right? If you're only getting half the facts, if you don't look at things and just say, oh, that's what I'm being told, that's what I'm being told.
Right. Well, nonetheless, Beverly does our autopsy. Nothing really comes of it.
No.
So she goes and tells, like, but Beverly's so moral. She goes and tells Picard what she did, and part of me is thinking to myself, did anybody really need to know she did an autopsy? I mean,
yeah. And then I guess my question is, in all these hundreds of years, we don't find a more effective way of doing an autopsy than actually still cutting someone open. Couldn't you just done well, no, I guess she says she does do the scans, but she can only find so much by doing it that way. No, it is addressed. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right. But also, like, I feel like you could repair what you did in the autopsy a lot more, right?
Yeah.
You could, like, instead of having all your incision marks and everything, she could,
Yeah. Cover your tracks a little bit. But again,
beam the organ out and then beam it back in.
What are you, a Vidian?
Perfect, right? Perfect.
We're so funny today.
I know. But you actually, by the way, I don't think that we ever saw the morgue in TNG except for this episode. So kudos to set design for building a morgue.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. And also,
I love that. I was going to say, like, in 400 years, a morgue doesn't look much different than it does now.
Bodies still need to be kept cold. I guess my point I also want to bring out is, in any murder investigation or any unexplained death situation, there are two people who are very important to any investigation, and that is the coroner and the medical examiner. And so Beverly kind of plays both roles in this episode, and law enforcement takes their feedback very seriously. So, when things were kind of being done and she was coming back with doubts, those should not have been whitewashed. Those should not, or pushed aside. They should have been taken seriously. So I do kind of have a beef with how poo-pooed her concerns were this episode. It was very frustrating at times.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably a victim of a 45-minute episode, right? You've got to, but you make good points there. Like, if we were writing this as a book, there'd be that context of other things, I think there. So maybe we should write the supplemental. I don't know.
I would love it. I would love that.
Let's jump into assimilations and regenerations, because I think between what you and I wrote ahead of time, I think we're going to touch on some of the lingering threads of this episode. So I'm going to start this one off because I love that we get Crusher on full display, as that we've been talking about. The smart scientist and the diplomat. It was probably, aside from Remember Me, the strongest Beverly episode that really doesn't reflect on her in a negative way in the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Descent Part 2 she's like the B plot or dual main plots. Descent Part 2 has a lot going on, although I love her in that, but in this episode, it's literally it's a Beverly episode.
I think this is probably my favorite Beverly-centric episode. Sometimes Remember Me, I find frustrating. And this one, but again, I've always loved murder mysteries. I've always loved those types of shows. So to see that an episode like that be on track, I was always going to love this episode. Yeah. One thing I loved was how the majority of the story was written in the past tense and then ended in the present. I love it when stories are being told that way. I see it a lot in some of my favorite shows now, and they're being done as like a mockumentary type film where they go back and they tell the story, and it's through that storytelling that it allows them to actually have a light bulb moment, and then in the present tense go and solve the crime. And so we kind of see that same writing style show up in this episode. I always found it very, very clever.
Definitely. It's got a very noir kind of take that way. It was kind of supposed to be written as like a Quincy episode. A Quincy's a really old TV series about a
Quincy.
doctor. Yeah, that was what they had in mind though when they were writing it. But this episode was supposed to be the Crusher episode of what they gave Troy this season, which was Face of the Enemy, the one where Troy becomes Romulan.
Yeah,
it's very much a Troy episode, and kind of like Troy out of her in a fish out of water type of situation. Yeah. So this was that. But so for me, this other thing I was going to mention though, that, and we talked about a little bit here, Guinan and Crusher have amazing scene time in this episode. Although Troy is barely in this episode, she has one line to Jean-Luc, I think, in the whole episode. I mean, literally, Marina Sirtis showed up for one day of work that week. And it's definitely a case. It's definitely a case of Troy's character being, her scene time being taken by Guinan. So whenever like Whoopi would show up and say, "Hey, I'm going to work this week," it literally was usually to the detriment of Marina Sirtis' character.
You can kind of see that because it's the character that sort of helps to be the ear. Lending the ear to the other cast, right? So you can't have too many of those in one episode.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
I love and found it so refreshing to see traditionally non-scientific species involved in the world of science. So particularly the Klingons and the Ferengis are traditionally seen as either warriors or capitalists, essentially. And this not only shows them breaking that norm, but they also talk about the struggles that they have experienced from their own people, their own societies, for going in a different direction, which is scientific discovery. One reason probably why Karak is so guarded is she's probably had to fight her entire career. And same with Rhaegar, the reason why he is so determined to make this is to prove himself and to prove that his life was not in vain, that for following Prophet, but that his science was actually a good thing to do. So I found that really an amazing part of this episode.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, that's a really good point, but these species have to have scientists and medical doctors and whatnot. Like, Klingon bird of preys don't get developed and built themselves, right? Scientists and engineers do that, right? And like these species wouldn't be spacefaring and wouldn't be, who they are without the infrastructure that allows them to go do war, right?
Why do they talk about not being respected on their home planets? Because science and medicine is so integral to the success and the wellness of any society. But I guess we're seeing it now in our own life, where doctors and scientists are being called frauds, and that they've been bought by big corporations to essentially kill the population through modern medicine and all that. Are we seeing that happening now?
Yeah, and I think another good point. I'm a big fan of Downton Abbey, and that takes place in the early 1900s. It starts at least in the early 1900s. And you see like doctors and lawyers in that show, and they're kind of looked down on as like, "Oh, why would you do that?" Or whereas now in today's society, being a doctor or a lawyer is something that you look to because you can make a lot of money and do really well in life, right?
Yeah.
So it's a positive thing now, but it wasn't always a positive thing in our society. So I guess you can say it's a class thing, right? Like within the Klingon structure, you have, of course, the warriors and generals are going to be the most important people.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you're necessary as a medical doctor or a scientist or an engineer, you're still lesser because you're brains and not brawn.
Yeah. Or brains and not profit. I also love that this is just a classic nothing left to lose situation, right? Beverly comes to the realization that, well, I've already been fired. And again, it's Guinan who kind of helps her come to that conclusion and see that you might as well see this out. the worst has already happened. You've already lost your job. See it through.
Yeah, it's kind of like a here, hold my beer. I'm
Here,
gonna go do this.
Here, hold my Romulan ale.
Yeah, I got it. Or what does Crusher drink? A blood wine in Picard. Hold
There
my
you
blood
go.
wine.
Hold my blood wine.
All right. So I think with regenerations, we kind of make the same point here, which is, although at the end of this episode, Dr. Crusher proves that the shield works, that Dr. Rego was murdered, and that it's discovered that our Takarian scientist was, bad. And so everything kind of gets wrapped up. It doesn't still explain away that she did a autopsy without permission, which is a violation of the Prime Directive. And basically it's been excused. Like, oh, because you figured it all out, this is no longer a problem.
Yeah. And I have a hard time believing there were no consequences.
I mean, unless you could say, I'm gonna give you some headcanon here, that the family of the Ferengi dropped any complaint because they claim the scientific discovery of their Dr. Rega, as theirs, and it's something that they can go profit off of.
Sure. But still, Starfleet didn't have anything to do. Like, Starfleet should have still done something. Because it's not only was it the violation of their burial rights, so that one maybe can be explained away, but she still violated the Prime Directive. Yeah. So you can't tell me Starfleet didn't have something to say.
I mean, even Janeway demoted Tom Paris after he went rogue in that one episode, right?
Right.
But we don't want Beverly to be demoted, so okay.
No. Unless that meant we got more Dr. Solar for a couple episodes.
I still want to see that, like, why didn't we get that? I'm sure there's, I need to sneak Google. I'm sure there's a book there. I probably already read it, but, there's so many books. The stories get lost in my head. They just become these ideas.
And you're like, oh, I thought of that myself. And then you're like, oh, never mind. I didn't. It was just a memory from a book.
I hate when I do that. I'll start to read a book. I'm like, oh, I've already read this like 20 years ago. Oh, wow. Okay, let's drop into trivia and continuity.
Yes.
I'll read this first one, but we kind of kicked this one a little bit already. The metaphasic field check technology was later used by the Enterprise-D under the command of Dr. Crusher in Descent Part 2 to combat the Borg. James Horan, who also guest starred in that episode, as Lieutenant Barnaby, it was an Enterprise-D crew member and overall douche.
Yes, very much so. And I remember for the first time I watched Descent and that callback was made, I was so excited because when you get to a point in a series where you have so much content like you do with Star Trek, it is so fun to see how they start tying storylines and the canon together, right? So, I thought that was very clever writing.
Yeah, it really is. And we loved it. How many times do we say we get these big discoveries in Star Trek and they never get revisited, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we can literally go into a star's corona and do it safely. Okay, so why wouldn't every ship in the fleet be outfitted with these shields now? Because that's major technology forward, right? So we see it being experimented with on the Enterprise several episodes later, but there's even some callbacks in Star Trek Picard season 3 to, adjusting metaphasic shields. And, it's specifically mentioned, like they get the metaphasic shields ready for warp. It's like, okay, there we go. Now it's like 20, 25 years later, it's just there. It's not even like a thing.
Yeah. And then not only does she use it, but she finds a way to weaponize it.
I know.
Which is
between her and Tate.
I know, right? I thought that was really cool. In this episode, it is stated that Ferengi are to be buried after death and are very adamant that the body not be violated before burial. However, on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, a different Ferengi death ritual for Grand Negazek and Quark is shown involved the vacuum desiccated remains that are sold to the highest bidder. We saw that in both the Negus and body parts. However, since the Deep Space Nine episode refers specifically to the Grand Negus funeral as appropriate for Ferengi of his stature, it may be that the death ritual of vacuum desiccated remains does not apply to the Ferengi scientist in this episode. As a disgraced failure, there would be no financial interest in his remains. That is very interesting to think of. It's a lot to digest. Or is it that until they are vacuum sealed, or because they need to be vacuum sealed to be sold, they can't be, no autopsy can be done, because that would wreck the merchandise.
But it says buried. So I think you're right. This literally, as this first off, I love that you got to read this one because I know how much
I love the
DS9 junkie. But I think it's something you would do to a Grand Nagus or somebody of major stature, popularity. Like my remains, because XYZ, your remains would be worth something. But like a disgraced scientist, to your, I said, already kind of a second-class citizen being a scientist, it's just it's common lore. What happened to everyday people?
Well, you kind of see that with mummies from Egypt. It was very clear who were high-class citizens and how the mummification process differed between them and your everyday person, right? Everything from what organs were removed, what organs were stored in the jars, the type of cloth used to wrap them, how well they were essentially like raisined up. Like, right, there were very clear differentiations in the mummification process dependent on your status and essentially the money that you had to put towards it, and of course how you were buried, your tomb, what you were buried with, right? It's almost kind of seeing that same type of thing, right? You have more money, you have a nicer burial process. Yeah.
So I think we can make this make sense for us. This one blows my mind considering we're still in season 6 of the show. But this episode marks the final appearance of Guinan on the series. Though she remains on the Enterprise D, she plays an integral role in Generations and has a very brief appearance in Nemesis. And she later returned in seasons, in the first and last episode of Picard season 2. But this is the last time she is seen running around on the Enterprise until Generations. That's wow.
I know. I was absolutely blown away when I was reading your research on this. But then I started looking at her all the work that she did. So so this would have been 1992, would have been season 6. In 1993, she did Made in America, Naked in New York, Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, which is essentially one of the best movies ever made. And A Cool Like That Christmas, where it was like a TV movie. And then soon after that, The Lion King was released, Little Rascals, Karina, and then she came back for Generations.
Oh, she was
so popular. And if she had the chance to reprise Dolores Van Cartier, she had to take that opportunity.
So speaking of, I actually, as one of my convalescence movies last week or this week, I watched the original Sister Act movie. And do you know the guy who gets offed in the beginning that Dolores witnesses getting offed?
Yeah.
Is Max Groden. It's Rom. It's Max Groden. Yeah, that's the guy who gets murdered in front of...
Stop it!
Yes.
My whole life is just connected in Star Trek, and I never even knew it. Now I can see it. Now I can absolutely see it. Holy cow.
It's all... And he was actually... it was pre-DS9, because DS9 started in early 93.
Yeah.
And so... But, Rom was there from the beginning, but still... Yeah.
There
Sorry
he
for
is,
botching his name.
Ernie.
Yep.
Yay.
That's the whole reason she goes into witness protection is because she watches him get murdered.
And she meets Maggie Smith. May she rest in peace.
Oh, Maggie.
Maggie. According to director Cliff Bold, several scenes with Dr. Rega were reshot. He's quoted as saying, he was a scientist, so I said that means he's got a little more compassion. Maybe he's not as oily as the rest of them. I think I went too far and the guys asked me to reshoot a few scenes. Rick Berman said, don't forget there's still Ferengi. I like the fact that there is a clear dichotomy between Rega and the other Ferengi that we see.
By this episode, DS9 was already airing because it started, DS9 started mid-season 6 of TNG.
Yeah.
And so we were already being introduced to different Ferengi than, of course, just the bumbling, funny Ferengi, even like, Menage a Troy or What a Tra and all that blah, blah, blah. But or even the ones that take over the Enterprise earlier this season and Rascals and things like that. So we're starting to see the new Ferengi, as I call it, the Ferengi that Armin Shimmerman would go on to kind of help pioneer in DS9.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't like just having a race be completely one note. I think it's important to show that in any large population, people are going to be different, and it's about respecting and accepting and thriving in uniqueness, as opposed to thinking we all just need to be one note. It's boring. It's boring.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So this is kind of interesting. Stock footage from the 4th season episode Final Mission is used, including Mary Cognert as Ensign Allenby. I never really heard of them doing that, just taking some rando stuff from another episode and shoving it in here. So that's pretty interesting to me, especially if it's another actor's performance.
Yeah. So did that actor get some royalty?
I would imagine you'd have to, because you'd have to get credited, and then because you're credited in the episode, or I don't know if they there's probably some SAG rule that, if you're going to put this footage in more than one episode and air it, you first have to be credited, and because you're credited, you're due a residual or whatever.
Yeah, because that was actually a big issue with Voyager and Next Gen, and why we have Lieutenant Paris when that was originally supposed to be Locarno.
Right.
From,
So they didn't want to, that's really simple. They didn't want to pay the guy who created Nick. They didn't want to pay him that because he originated that character.
Yeah.
He would be due something. And I don't know if he would be due something in perpetuity or just one time. Something tells me it would be forever.
That's probably why. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my theory on that, I know this has nothing to do with suspicions, but Locarno was his mom's name. And he held his mom's name. And then after the disgrace, he adopted his dad's last name of Paris. So it's the same guy. He just
I like that. I like that. You're blowing my mind this morning. Blowing my mind.
Listeners, comment if you think it's the same guy. Does that make sense?
All right. I'll let you read this last one here because we already talked about.
So Kurak is played by Trisha O'Neill, who also played Dr. Rachel Garrett on yesterday's Enterprise. When I was doing my research and going through IMDb and I saw her show up, I'm like, I know her face. I know her face from somewhere. And lo and behold, she's Captain Garrett from the Enterprise C.
Talk about being able to play some different roles, right? Right up there with Susie Plaxton, right?
Yeah.
That's how do you play, Klingon scientist and Federation legendary captain?
I know. And she both plays somebody who is a Klingon and a human who was instrumental in bringing peace between the Klingons and humans. So again, powerful women being represented all throughout these episodes. So I
Kristen, why don't you give us our final thoughts here?
You know, maybe it's just the lens with which I view Star Trek, but I always find that the female characters are judged very harshly, especially, Crusher and Janeway, I think are judged the harshest, in my opinion. And for this episode in particular, would the same harsh response come from the audience had these actions been done by a male character? Or would they have been seen as heroic and going off the beaten path? But because it's a woman deciding to not follow rules, is it different?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I can think of a handful of episodes where our male characters, went and got themselves in trouble, usually because of their dicks. And then everything is written off. Like, what's the awful one from season 5 with the androgynous species? The problematic episode.
I've got the perfect mate stuck in my head, but that's not it. No, I know exactly what one you're talking about. And
it's like the episode I like to talk about very often because it is so problematic.
I know. And he was Riker ever held responsible for beating the crap out of those two people?
Riker and Worf goes off and helps them too. Come on. You like her? Or them. What? Let's go.
He probably was just like, oh, this is my chance to maybe kick someone's ass. I'm gonna go.
But I feel
outcast.
like that. Oh,
the outcast.
All right. People don't have to leave it in the comments. But like that's just one example of where our male characters go off and get in trouble and, don't even get their hands slapped at the end of the episode. So exactly. You know what? If Beverly's going to be a part of one of the biggest scientific discoveries, which by the way ends up saving the Enterprise just a few episodes later, everybody on the Enterprise owes their life to Beverly because she knew because of the shielding. So,
and I mean, when we look at as well the same kind of thing that Troy did in the Masterpiece Society, where she had a relationship with the main leader, she has to divulge that to Picard.
And get shamed for it.
I know. That doesn't happen to Riker or Kirk. Or I think the only guy who was ever held accountable for his finagling, I don't know what word I was looking for there, is Harry Kim when he gets the space STD.
It would be Harry Kim, by the way.
It would be Harry Kim.
It would be Harry Kim. All right. We're going to leave that right there.
We're going on a tangent.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristin. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. 2 episodes enter the arena, 1 comes out victorious. Join hosts Joe and Kevin, and a guest, as they debate which should win the Batleth battle. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed, but should definitely check out. Hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for The Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through the Star Trek cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam Aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Steven. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Zalagis, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into beta canon with Peter, host of the online Trek Book Club on Twitter, and his new companion, Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Trexperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Whether you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch The View Screen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy, with Season 2 starting in September for a 10-week run. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with a LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea, Bev. And for our Patreon members, we have the Hive Mind with monthly script readings, Let's Fly, a Discovery reaction show, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Well, thank you, Amy. Coming up next week, we are going to continue our Architect of Star Trek series with part 5, and it's a tribute to the recently deceased Jerry Taylor.
And what an architect she was.
I know it's going to be a big episode.
It's gonna be an emotional episode.
Yeah, well, we got a little bit of reading to do.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of reading to do.
She did so much for this
Yes,
series.
yes.
It's going to be hard to pack that into a 1-hour show.
I know. I got to figure out what key episodes I need to watch, and maybe even a few novels. I know she did Mosaic for one that did a little bit of Janeway's backstory. So maybe that'll be my homework this week.
Yeah, awesome. So we would love to hear what you thought of today's episode, and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, or on our Discord server to continue our discussion there. Please follow the network on Blue Sky and Instagram at BQN Podcasts. We've also partnered with our friends at the Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching their master feed. Links can be found in the show notes. So, Christos, where can people find you when you're not basking in the glory that is Dolores Van Cartier's journey?
You can find me on Instagram and at Blue Sky at Greek Geek SD, SD as in San Diego. You can find me on Instagram also at What's the Tea, Bev, or over on What's the Tea, Bev. And just a little shout out too. Wow, Blue Sky is kind of growing exponentially in the post-election blowout. So wow, there's I'm gaining so many followers per day. It's kind of cool. And so find me over there. I'm trying to spend more time there. Christian, where can people find you when you aren't slowing down your bodily functions to the point of appearing to be deceased?
I mean, sometimes I feel that way on my what I call rot days, where I just lie in bed, usually watching Star Trek.
Nothing wrong there.
Yes. You can find me, of course, on Instagram at kstrats. You can find me on Facebook at the BQN Network. I'm on the Discord server now, but I signed up and I have never been back. So I need to actually go on and do something there. And of course, my favorite on Reddit at user Garrick's Fan Club. If you ever want to just dive into really good conversations with other Trekkies, Reddit is such a great place to do that in the Trek-specific subreddits.
If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can join our Hive Mind Roundtable discussion, script readings, and enjoy special patron-only shows of It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and other perks. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
If becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing our posts on social media, talking about with your friends, or hitting the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leaving us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show.
At this time, we would like to thank our very own associate producers, Mahedran Radhakrishnan and JJ Seastrom. A very special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and to Mark White for our branding and graphics. Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us as we search out
all good things.